Okay. Participants. Victoria. Victoria is joining. Let me give you the host, Craig.
Okay, Jai. Hare Krishna.
Very well.
So we're live, Prabhu's.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Victoria Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Jai.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada. Thank you for joining the meeting. We're streaming live on YouTube now, and we have Thomas Prabhu is here, Tamahara, and Ronald Singh Prabhu from Sacramento. Tamahara is from the UK. Victoria is from Mexico, and Krishna Kishore is coming also.
Jai, that's nice. Hare Krishna to everyone. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Jai Haribol. Yeah.
Haribol.
We just decided to have a little discussion on the Gita. I was at a Ratha Yatra yesterday, and we were talking a bit about that. And I said I read some things on the way to the Ratha Yatra, so I said I would share it.
Jai, that's very nice. Yesterday I was reading the 9th chapter, and I was reading, I think, the number 30, the verse number 30, and I wanted to discuss with someone that verse.
Oh, Joy, yeah. So perhaps after we move on from these verses, we can go to that one, and then we can discuss that one as well.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Okay, so we're starting with chapter 2, verse 61. Hare Krishna, Krishna Kishore Prabhu. I believe you're here with us as well.
Hare Krishna, Prabhupada Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada, good to see you.
Thank you, Prabhupada. I will just listen because I'm just about to take prasada, but I will be here.
Yeah, sure. I will. I'll start off. I'll start off and I'll read.
I'm sorry, Prabhu, which verse are we reading?
Chapter 2, verse 61.
Okay, thank you.
I'll give you a few minutes for everybody to get the. If you want to get a Bhagavad-Gita for yourself, or I'll give you a few minutes. Also, I'm sending out some links. If anyone else wants to send a link out to people, you can forward the link from the chats that I gave you. If anyone wants to forward it to other people so they can get other people to join, now would be a good time to do that.
Okay, I posted the links to some places, so let's see who joins.
Sure.
So chapter 2. What text?
It's chapter 2, text 61. I was actually going to read a few verses from this. The 61 up to 60. They're all. Perhaps we can take turns reading them until we get up to 67 or 68. Yeah. I think anyone who comes in after this, they can join in, and we can tell them where we are, and they can come into the discussion. And if they want to hear it again, they can look at the live stream.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So okay, I'll start, and shall we take it? I'll read the first one, and then we'll whoever wants to continue after me, then we can.
Maybe you can project it on the screen.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was supposed to share the screen as well. Thank you.
PrabhupadaBooks.com.
Oh, you want to do that one? Is
Oh
that
no,
better?
whatever's convenient for you. Whatever's convenient for you.
Whichever's better to read on the screen, like asitis.com is.
Oh yeah,
maybe-
let's just use that. Let's use that. Yeah,
I
that's
don't
good.
know. Yeah, I think you might be right though. Prabhupada Books might be. No, this one's quite big as well. Would anyone like to chant first before we read? Guru Pranams or
Yes, please. Someone.
okay. I'll start with Guru Pranams, and then what else? All right. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvashesha Sunyavadi Vastyatya Satarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Prabhu, what's chanted also before? It's the verse. It means to open your eyes to the Rama Prabhu. Do you know this?
It's the Om Mangyana Timirandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Should I read the translation? Because I don't know it.
Yeah, sure, that'd be nice. Yeah, that'd be good.
Just put it. Yes.
Sorry? I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Sva Padantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? And then I think we say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. Okay, I'll start then. I'll read. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Victoria Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu Haribo.
So this is text 61, chapter 2 of the Bhagavad-Gita. And it says, one who restrains his senses and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. Sorry, I should read the Sanskrit. Shall we read the Sanskrit for each of them, Prabhu? Or
Do it all
is it,
together.
would it be too long? No, if we're doing like 7 verses.
Whoever's the expert, they can read it.
Yeah, if
Most.
they're but yeah, okay, I'll leave it up to each person. Tani Savani Samyamyam Samyamya Yukta Astita Matpara Vasahi Yasyendriyani Tasya Pranjana Vastitita. One who restrains his senses and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. Purport. That is the highest conception of yoga. Perfection is Krishna consciousness. The highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness is clearly explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it is not at all possible to control the senses. As cited above, the great sage Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambarish, and Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride and therefore could not check his senses. On the other hand, the king, although not as powerful a yogi as the sage, but a devotee of the Lord, silently tolerated all the sage's injustices and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualifications, as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Savai Mana Krishna Pada Vindayor Vakshmi Vaikunta Gunaru Varamane Karu Hare Mandira Marjana Dasyu Shrutim Chakra Chuitya Satkatar Doyai Muktali Galyaye Darshana Drasyu Tadbrata Gatra Spas Naga Sangmamam Granam Cha Tatpada Saroja Surave Srimat Tulsaya Rasanam Tadarpate Padahare Shatra Padanu Sarpane Shiro Rikesha Padava Ivandane Kamam Cha Dasye Natu Kamam Kamayaya Yatatato Mas Loka Gyanasarya Rati. King Ambarish fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotee, his nostrils in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaves offered to him, his legs in traveling to the holy place where his temple is situated, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all these qualifications made him fit to become a Matpara, devotee of the Lord. The word Matpara is most significant in this connection. How can one become a Matpara is described in the life of Ambarish Maharaj Ambarish. Srila Baladev Vidyabhusana, a great scholar and acharya in the line of the Matpara, remarks, Mad Bhakti Paravena Savindriya Vijaya Puri Vikya Svatma Dristi, Salavati, Bhava. The senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given. As the small flames within burn everything within the room, similarly, Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of the yogi, burns up all kinds of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on the void. The so-called yogis who meditate on something which is not the Vishnu form simply waste their time in vain search after some phantasmagoria. We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of the real yoga. Well, there's one thing I saw that was interesting to say in that, and like that the so-called yogis meditate on the void, and that means that they don't have anything to burn up their impurities. If they're meditating on the void and someone else is meditating on Vishnu, then the person who is meditating on Vishnu has something to burn up the impurities, but the person who's meditating on the void is left to do it alone. So, yeah, that was something I thought when I was reading that. Hare Krishna. Would anyone else like to read the next verse?
I'll read.
Jai, is that Tamahara?
It is. Yeah.
Jai Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Jai. Text 62. Dayayato Vishayam Pumsaha Sangas Teshu Bhajayate Sangat Sajayate Kamaha Katmat Krodho Bijayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. Purport. One who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the object of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. When Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi, but Haridas easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above-mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not, therefore, in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail, for the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his senses.
Jai, Haribol. Do you have anything to say about that verse yourself that came to you while you were reading?
Yeah, the last sentence, I think. Yeah, if you're not Krishna conscious, there's just no way of controlling yourself, basically. You got no chance. It's just, yeah, you're gonna get taken away by the mind.
Yeah,
Worst enemy.
Ronald, would you like to read the next? Are you able to?
Which verse?
It is verse 63 of the Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 2.
Okay, 63. Okay.
I will bring it up on the screen just in case that helps you.
No, I got it here, Prabhu. You can put it up on the screen, then I'll start reading.
Sure. It's up.
Okay. Krodha bhavati sammohat smriti vibhramaha smriti Brahma Shad Buddhi Nasho Buddhi Nashta Prayanshati. Okay, Krodha from anger bhavati takes place. Samoha, perfect illusion. Samohata, from illusion. Smriti, of memory. Vibramha, bewilderment. Smriti Brahmanash, after bewilderment of memory. Buddhi Nash, loss of intelligence. Buddhi Nash, and from loss of intelligence. Paranshati, falls down. Then the translation from Srila Prabhupada. From anger, delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. By development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has its use in the service of the Lord. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects, and as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. For example, for an impersonalist, the Lord or the Absolute, being impersonal, cannot eat. Whereas an impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables, a devotee knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. Okay. So, after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants called prasadam. Thus, everything becomes spiritualized and there is no danger of a downfall. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, whereas the non-devotee rejects it as material. The impersonalist, therefore, cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation. And for this reason, a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again to the pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service. All right.
So how about, is there any one thing that jumps out at you from that you would say about it?
This is very interesting. Huh? The devotee mentality, the materialist mentality, and what's the other guy? Impersonalist mentality. All in Prabhupada is describing here, right?
Mm.
Yeah. He says,
So
for
three levels.
example,
Yeah.
so for example, for an impersonalist, the Lord or the absolute being impersonal cannot eat, whereas the impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables. So, yeah, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, see how Prabhupada is very precise in his language here, how he's describing all three people, the devotee, the impersonalist, and the non-devotee. So when Prabhupada presents the philosophy, he presents it very scientifically, and anyone, with some common sense, they can understand it, unless they're like either crazy or very badly influenced by the Mayavadi philosophy. Srila Prabhupada presents Krishna as a person all the time, every time. So I think that is very unique, specifically in Prabhupada's books. He talks about Krishna as a person all the time. At least the Hindus believe him to be some kind of energy, or they use the word Paramatma all the time. The impersonal aspect of Krishna.
Such a dangerous philosophy.
Yeah.
So dangerous.
It's interesting the way you were saying he gives the three different ones, and the materialist is is very, very easily agitated. Like he's in a very precarious position, very dangerous position. And then the impersonalist is a little bit better off. He's a little bit more steady, but he will also succumb to things. And then the only one who is in a good position is the one who Vishnu shows him how to use things. Like, because he is meditating, Vishnu is showing, oh, you can use like this, you can use like this, as it says up there, that those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid the material objects. So they have to try to avoid them because they don't have Vishnu to tell them how to use them. They're forced. Otherwise, they're even in a more dangerous position. Is that what you meant, Ron?
Yes. Someone else can comment too. Prabhu, Victoria is there. There's Thomas Prabhu, and
yeah. If anyone else has anything to say about the previous two verses, because we've moved on through two.
Yeah. Well, I like to say that in the previous verse, I think that's 62. Text 62. It gives you the perspective on how hard it or how advanced the body of Krishna is, and how we are only aspiring to become a devotee because, for example, Haridas Thakur, he was an Uttama Adhikari, right? So we have to aspire and be very humble to attain that position, because it's not easy to become a fully Krishna conscious person. So I think that purport gives you a really good depth on how it is actually not an easy job to become a fully Krishna conscious person, and how we should remember that we are only aspiring to become one.
So, yeah, would anyone else like to add to that? Is there anyone to what either Victoria said or what is in the purport?
I think one of the saddest things is that impersonalists can't enjoy prasadam. It's kind of at the core of a personalist philosophy is spiritualizing your food. Yeah, the impersonalist completely misses out on it. It's quite sad, really.
Yeah, so without personal relationship, Prabhupada said we must fall down again into trying to please ourselves in other ways. Like this is so who would like to read the next verse? Or is there anyone? Perhaps
I can,
Victoria.
Yeah, I can,
Victoria.
But well, the book that I have, it's another edition, so it's a little bit different from the one that, or maybe you can put the verse.
I can put on the screen, and you can read from the because maybe you have Spanish, and might be ISKCON, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I have it now. It's not working.
And also the impersonalists, they well, I was reading yesterday that the interchange, I don't know how to say it, between Krishna and a devotee is because they both have consciousness. So the devotee has consciousness and Krishna has consciousness. So that change of the relationship, it's what makes it successful, not as in the impersonalist that they don't have someone else to put their full faith. It's just, it's just a void, no?
Yeah, they don't have Vishnu, so they meditate instead on the void. So they must. That's what I was saying about the first verse. It seems like they have to do Krishna's job as well, because they refuse to give him his position. They have to. They meditate on the void, so then they must, whatever Krishna was doing, whatever Vishnu is doing to to teach them how to use the sense objects and things like that for his service, because they don't have that. They meditate on the void. Therefore, they must, anything he was going to help them with, they have to help themselves with. So they become overburdened like that.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Does
Yeah.
that make sense to you? What you were
Yeah, it
saying?
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Can you see on the screen?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Raga desha bimuktaistu bisayanindriyaicharam atma vasar biheyatma prasadami adigachati. Translation: one who can control his senses by practicing the regular principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord and thus become free from all attachment and aversion. Perfect. It is already explained that one may externally control the senses by some artificial process, but unless the senses are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of a fall. Although the person in full Krishna consciousness may apparently be on the sensual plane because of his being Krishna conscious, he has no attachment to sensual activities. The Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Therefore, he is transcendental to all attachment. If Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinarily undesirable. And if Krishna does not want, he shall not do that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. Therefore, to act or not to act is within his control because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. This consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord, which the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the central platform. I think that popped into my mind was the verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Sarvopadi Vinir Muktam, that Paradvena Nirmalam Krishikena Krishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate. Because we are engaging our senses in the service of Krishikena, no? The master of all senses. So that's the only way to actually control the mind, control the senses, and control the body. So, and that's why devotional service is very natural to the jiva, because there is no artificial shutdown of the senses, because we all desire something, right? It's like, you can also think about how in the material world we have the lust, and in the spiritual world we have love for Godhead. So in essence they are the same, just one it's perverted in the material world. But if you direction it to the love for Krishna, it becomes perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, the senses are perfected in that.
Exactly. And also I think this is very important in that verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It says that material designations, they practically disappear when one is engaged in the service of the Lord. And I think that's one of the things that most of the youth they want to achieve, but they want to achieve it through sex life. For example, all of the LGBT community, they are trying to disappear with, I don't know if you've heard about how they are trying to make new genders, or you can be a man in a woman's body or a woman in a man's body. So they want to take out these material designations. They don't want to have those material responsibilities, and they just want to enjoy. They want to enjoy sex life, but that sex life is only going to bring more misery. So the only way to completely get free from all the miseries of the material world is to get yourself attached to the service of Hrishikesha. No? And that's very important, the material designations, because the jiva does not want to be, the jiva doesn't want to identify with the body, like in a very subconscious way. And that's why it wants to get free by enjoyment. But that enjoyment, it's only perfect when it's to the service of Lord Krishna.
Yeah, that's very interesting. It follows on from the last verse that the what you were saying about material designations and how people, they either give up or they misuse them. But it's the same as the sense objects. The material designations and the sense objects are the same, because they are something that people, is out of frustration, they either misuse it or they give it up because they are frustrated that they do not know how to
Exactly.
use it. So because of
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
frustration, that so most of the things in this world are done from sour grapes because we do not know how to use. A few days ago, I heard Prabhupada speaking in a lecture, and he said if a finger captures one sweet, he captures one sweetmeat on his own, and he tries to eat it on his own, he will just make a mess in his hand. So out of frustration, he will try to eat it on his own. The finger will try to eat on his own, and he will just create a mess in his hand, and then he will not enjoy. So it is very similar that people, out of frustration, they misuse, and then they give up because there is nobody to assist them, to give them simple knowledge on how things should be done. Which also follows to the other famous verse in the Bhagavad-Gita, that there is those who know what is to be done and what is not to be done. I'm not sure that exact verse. Does anyone know what that verse actually is? Those who know what is to be done and what is not to be done.
Divine demoniac natures, isn't it?
Yeah. It says that the demons, they do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done, but
I
those
think
who
it's
are,
in the third chapter, but I don't know which verse.
oh, well, I apologize for not being able to find that for you. I should be able to quote it, but perhaps we'll find it at another time. It's okay. Yeah.
So there's a material designations which are coming according to one's previous karma, or bad karma, good karma. How can one utilize that in Krishna service?
But that's
Can we?
that's very interesting. So you have designations which you picked there. The designations are fixed. As you said, you are given your designations, but the material sense objects, they are stuff that goes past. It is also given to you as your karma in the whole world, but it is kind of, the designations are fixed to you, and then the sense objects, they could be shared between everybody. So they are kind of, one is for inside yourself and the other is like outside yourself, like that. So your question was, how is the designations, how can they be utilized? Is that it?
Yes, precisely.
How can we utilize our designation in Krishna consciousness? Well, he gave the answer in the Bhagavad-Gita there. He said that if we meditate on Lord Vishnu, if we become Krishna conscious, then Lord Vishnu will show us how to use things, quite simply.
And also, I think I'm sorry,
No.
Prabhu. And,
Sure.
and also, I think that it's important to remember that we are not the body. Like that's the first thing one has to realize to come to a spiritual platform, that we are not the body, and whatever designation you have is due, as you said, Ronald Prabhu, to your past karma. So you have to act not caring that much for your material position, but engaging yourself in the service of Krishna.
So could you say it? What was the last bit?
Sorry?
Sorry, no, the last sentence you said there.
Yes, not caring. Sorry, not caring
That's
so much for your material position, but only caring to serve Krishna.
Yeah. This is this is the same as Prabhu said. As Prabhu was saying, this is the question, and I believe this is answered actually as we go forward. We're on, yeah, in text 65. If we go on, I think like we can answer this question, but I think it is already answered because it is going on to the next verse. And Krishna talks about this. And Ramaprabhu, was it answered previously in the previous verses already?
Yeah, I was just, playing devil's advocate. So is there something called spiritual designation also?
Spiritual designation? Yeah, true ego. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we are the if we are recognizing our true ego, then our spiritual designation is replaces the material designation, or links up with it at least. Sorry, yeah, links up is probably a better way, isn't it? Links up because the material.
So what is a spiritual designation? What is a spiritual designation? I'm part and parcel of Krishna.
Servant of Krishna.
Yes, you're servant of Krishna.
So servant of Krishna is the spiritual designation, and then the service is the material designation. But when we are only conscious of the material designation, we have service but nobody to serve. So if we are conscious only of the material designation, but when we are conscious of the spiritual designation and the material designation, then we know we are servant and we have service at the same time. So they should marry together. And I believe that would be what they call dovetailing in Krishna consciousness. Is that a fair answer?
Sorry. Okay, so we can continue.
Yeah, we can continue because I believe it goes even further into this explanation as we go on. Who else is here? We have 4 participants at the moment. Hang on a second. Krishna Kishore came back in. Is Krishna Kishore there? Krishna Kishore? No.
I think he left Prabhu.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
you may have had some service to do. So it's only the 4 of us. Who else? Was there more people?
There was only one other.
Oh, it was only Krishna Kishore. Okay. So we're back to, okay, so shall I continue then? And then
sure.
We will start again from, okay. Text 65, chapter 2. Prasade Sarva Dukanam. Oh, sorry, I didn't put it up on the screen in case people are watching on the live stream. Okay. Text 65. Prasade Sarva Dukanam Anirasyo Bhajate Prasana Chetsaso Hiyasu Buddhi Paravati Satate Prasade, on achievement of the causeless mercy of the Lord. Sarval, Sarva, all. Dukanam, material miseries. Hani, destruction. Asya, his, upajate, takes place. Prasana chetasa, of the happy-minded. Hai, certainly. Asu, very soon. Buddhi, intelligence. Pari, sufficiently. Avatiste, established. Translation: for one who is so situated in the divine consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such a happy state, one's intelligence soon becomes steady. It's a short verse, and the one interesting thing is that it says that the miseries no longer exist. They don't actually exist. I don't really have much to say about it, but it might become more relevant to our conversation as it goes on. But
Yeah.
It says that the fact that the threefold miseries of material exist.
Yeah, that's a Brahma-bhuta prasantatma. Na sochati, na kanchati. He comes to the Brahman platform and no hankering and no lamentation. I think this is.
But the fact that it actually does not exist means that because the miseries don't actually exist, it proves that they're Maya, but it also proves the power of Krishna consciousness, that if one is actually situated in divine consciousness, then it changes something. There's a change that happens at that moment when someone is in a divine consciousness. Then it's not that they ignore the miseries, it's that the miseries don't exist. That's what I thought would be. I mean, that's all I have to say about it, but that may have a bearing to the verses as we go on, or as the discussion continues back into the verses we've already read. Does anyone else have anything to say about it? Haribo, does anyone else have anything to say on that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe materially they are present, but in a conscious level, you are fully engaged in Krishna service, so they appear as they are not present, but that doesn't mean that they do not manifest materially.
So say that again. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like when the Pandavas, they were persecuted for 13 years, and they were suffering in a sense, no? So that doesn't mean that materially the mysteries do not appear. They are present, but you are engaged in Krishna service, so you can ignore them per se. So no.
Well, the Pandavas were in divine consciousness, so
exactly.
The Pandavas were in divine consciousness, so for them they were not ignoring. The material miseries were not existing, although they would react to them because that was part of the Leela. Like for them, like Krishna would talk about Arjuna, and he would say he was not. He was playing the part of a man who was confused, but he was not a confused man, because he was an eternal servitor of the Lord who was playing a role of a confused man. So in this way, the misery of confusion would not have existed for Arjuna, but he displayed that for other people's benefit, so they could learn from his supposed mistakes, his so-called mistakes. But really, he was a pure devotee, so there was no mistake. And you could also say, according to this verse, there was no material miseries existing for him. Does that change what you want?
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that change? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So does anyone else have anything to say about that?
When it comes to the threefold miseries, is that one's like one pertaining to the body, one pertaining to natural disasters, and one pertaining to other living entities? Are those threefold miseries?
Yes, those are the three miseries.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So, yeah. Okay. Ronald Prabhu, would you like to read the next? Or sorry, we had an order of things. It was
me. I think, yeah.
It was you, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Struggle. Text 66. Nasti buddhi ayuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata santir asantasya kutaha sukham. Na asti, there cannot be, buddhi, transcendental knowledge, transcendental intelligence, ayuktasya, of one who is not connected with Krishna consciousness, na, neither, cha, and, ayuktasya, one devoid of Krishna consciousness, bhavana, mind fixed in happiness, na, neither, cha, and, abhavayataha, one who is not fixed, santihi, peace, asantasya, of the unpeaceful, kutaha, where is, sukham, happiness. Translation. One who is not in transcendental consciousness can have neither a controlled mind nor steady intelligence, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? Purport. Unless one is in Krishna consciousness, there is no possibility of peace. So it is confirmed in the 5th chapter, 5:29, that when one understands that Krishna is the only enjoyer of all the good results of sacrifice and penance, and that he is the proprietor of all universal manifestations, that he is the real friend of the living entities, then only can one have real peace. Therefore, if one is not in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be a final goal for the mind. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal, and when one is certain that Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone and everything, then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. Therefore, one who is engaged without a relationship with Krishna is certainly always in distress and is without peace. However much one may make a show of peace and spiritual advancements in life, Krishna consciousness is a self-manifested peaceful condition which can be achieved only in relationship with Krishna. Again, it talks about the mind being your worst enemy. Be your best friend or your worst enemy.
I have a question. I remember that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that one has to beat the mind. But how can we beat the mind?
He says, he said in the morning, beat it back with your shoes. In the evening, beat it back with a stick.
Yes. So how can we beat the mind?
And in the evening with shoes again, no?
Yeah, always. Do not make friends with the mind. But how can you beat the mind?
Is anyone qualified to answer questions here? No.
We have another devotee, Prahlad Prabhu. He's
Oh,
from Jai Prahlad Prabhu. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Does it work?
Krishna, Prahlad Prabhu.
Is it working?
Yeah, it's working. It's working.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is my video working?
Yeah, Prabhu.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Jai, who's in the chat?
Well, we've got Tamahara from Watford in England. Well, from the UK. We have Ronald Singh from Sacramento, Ramachandra, Ronald Singh, and Victoria from Mexico, and myself, I'm in the UK. Gregory Sheehan.
Oh, it's you, Greg. Okay.
Yeah. And then Krishna Kishore was here, and he may still be listening. I'm not sure, but I think he might have left the chat.
Ooh, Krishna Kishore has left the chat.
Yeah, we're having a Bhagavad-Gita discussion. We've read from text 61 up to text 66, and it's about well, the short synopsis would be it's about controlling the senses and how to control the senses, and what that it means in relation to Krishna consciousness, and what Krishna gives you if you do control the senses, which is peace. That's what we're on at the moment. So
That sounds really nice.
yeah, we've got one more verse, I think, and then we're yeah, maybe we could keep going for a few verses. I don't know, are you able to read, or are you able to see the screen I'm sharing on your phone?
It's difficult. I'm on an iPhone right now.
Yeah, if it's not readable, it's okay. One of the other Prabhus can read. Unless you had a Bhagavad-Gita with you, that would help.
Oh, I wish.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
Anybody has Bhagavad-Gitas want to send them my way, that'd be wonderful.
okay, we'll move on. We were just about to read the next verse. Oh wait, does anyone else have anything to say about that verse after Tamahara has said what he has said? Ronald Prabhu or Victoria?
Nope, not me.
Nope.
No? Okay. Yeah, I was looking at it and I saw something. I was like, it's really interesting that he said disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal. And when one is certain that Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone and everything, then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. So it's very interesting that all of the disturbances that are caused to the aspiring devotees are due to them losing what should be their ultimate goal. Like, I mean, it's telling us there that if we want to not be disturbed, then this is the method to do it, is to restrain our senses and to focus on that ultimate goal. And Prabhupada said one time that that he who remains undisturbed, this is a very rare thing. This is a very rare thing. He said so. This is an instruction on how to get like the rarest of things even in devotional life. Like he said, even devotees were rare, but how to get the rare thing even in devotional life, it's right there. It says disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal.
What does it mean by ultimate goal? I mean,
An ultimate goal. Well,
yeah.
Even in business and things like this, they have a philosophy and they say, keep your eye on the prize. Like they say, keep your eye on the prize. But these people have goals, but they're not ultimate goals. They're not watering the root of the tree. They are watering the leaves, so that their goals are like, one man has a goal to go to the gym and make himself bigger, and another man has a goal to develop the best music collection so that he can share it with his friends. Everyone has these different goals that they think are the highest good, or the thing.
Yeah.
The ultimate. They think it's the ultimate, but it's not the ultimate. The ultimate is the root, and if you water the root, then you have an ultimate goal. So there's the watering of the root, but then there's even having the goal. Like you have to have the goal of the root, and then if Krishna is the root and you have this goal, then you can continue to do your watering undisturbed. You see, you can water like this. Sorry, someone else was going to say something now.
No,
that was really a good description.
Sorry.
Very, very yeah, the description doesn't get much better than how you explained it.
I'm reading it from this, and I think this is describing it better than Prabhupada has explained it in better ways. I've heard him explain it in better ways, but I wish I could tell you them all right now, but I can't. So, Ronald, do you have anything else to say, or should we move on to the next one? I believe you're the next person to read. Are you?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, but you guys read. I've got a lot of traffic here, so I'm just listening.
Okay, okay. Victoria, would you like to take over and finish the last, which could be the last unless we do more?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let me bring it up on the
Ah,
screen.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Hopefully you can.
Indriyanam hicharatam janmano nuvidiyate tadasya harati pragyam vayurnavam mivabashi. Translation. As a boat on the water is swept away by a strong wind, even one of the senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Purport. Unless all of the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. As mentioned in the life of Maharaj Ambarish, all of the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique for controlling the mind.
this is the secret of success.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
All your senses engaged constantly.
Yeah.
I would I would add that, especially in how degraded things are now, the most two important, as Srila Prabhupada said, is smaranam kirtanam Vishnu, hearing and chanting, because hearing and chanting is the most powerful, or it's the most direct method of all the 9 processes.
Mm.
And that's what we're supposed to become attached to, is the hearing and the chanting of the holy names. That's what Srila Prabhupada consistently emphasized. When we hear and when we chant the holy names, the Lord is directly there. You know, while the other 7 processes, they're nice, but most devotees do not have those opportunities as it stands now. Many devotees don't go to the temple every day, like, you know,
Yeah.
like it's not taken for granted. Many devotees do not take it for granted as it stands right now. So that's something I wanted to add.
sorry,
Isn't
yeah,
it-
well, oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and I think that's why the Sankirtan movement is so important, because and that's why it's so I don't know how to say it in English. Trágico. It's very
Tragic?
sad. Tragic.
Critical?
Sorry, yeah, tragic.
Tragic.
Tragic that well, ISKCON altogether has stopped the Sankirtan movement, because that's the most direct way of how one can realize Krishna, and it's very easy. So yeah, I agree with what Prahlad Prabhu said, that chanting and hearing, they are the most essential processes.
Yeah, most essential is very good words. That's it's kind of the same thing I was about to say. I was about to say that, yeah, they can be the primary. And then at the end of the verse, it says here that all of the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique for controlling the mind. So if we engage those first 2, then we can also hopefully it says it's possible, so hopefully we can engage all of the senses
And
at the
also,
same
well,
time.
the most important sense to control, or the most voracious sense to control, is the tongue. So if we always chant Hare Krishna and we take Krishna Prasad, then we have Krishna in our grip. That's how Srila Prabhupada says it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a very important point. And when it comes to those 2 processes, it's also, I would add, the association we take, because the association we have, if we are around true, sincere devotees, our chanting and the persona will be even better, and they will help propel us. Meanwhile, if we're around bad association, or not so favorable association, then chanting depending on our platform, depending on where we're at, we might be heavily affected. Our chanting might be heavily affected by their association. And like prasadam, for example, there's many you go to temples, at least in America, and there's many temples where you have some of the food that they offer to the Lord, and the consciousness of the cooks. You never know, what's going into that, and the Lord only really accepts it if it's out of love and devotion. So we have to be very careful and diligent about the association we have. These two processes, they're vital, but they're affected by the association we have.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can share two quotes with you in that regard about what Victoria Mataji has said and what Prahlad Prabhu has said. The first quote is from Prabhupada, and he said one time that that first you control the tongue, and then you will control everything else. And the tongue is part of Shravanam, and he did not say this, but this is that's what he said. That's the end of that. And then the tongue itself is part of Shravanam and Kirtanam, because you use it for Kirtanam, but for Shravanam you have to stop it. You must stop your tongue to listen to someone else. And then the other quote that came to mind is a quote from the Bible, and it said, "A man who fails to control his tongue, his religion is worthless." So
it's like it's like Esau and Jacob in the Bible. He sold his birthright for a bowl of soup. So if we lose control of our senses, it's a downhill plunge. That's the result of losing control of our senses. We can become completely mad, and when we're mad, we lose all intelligence and all good sense, and fall even deeper into the material pool. According to Bhagavad-Gita 2:62-63, where it talks about that exactly.
Yeah, that was actually the verses we were reading just before you got here, and it says the verses previous to this were saying that if one even fails to control the senses, even for a moment, man can be swept away.
That's perfect. That's convenient then, because I didn't even know what chapter and verse we were reading, but when I heard that, like, 262-63.
Yeah, we're on 267 now, and Prabhu has read 267. Wait, who read Victoria read, isn't it?
Yes.
Victoria Mataji has read 267. So shall we continue a few more up until?
Right. That sounds good.
I'll just see. Yeah, I think we can go to 71 because that's where it stays. That's where it stays. Or we could just finish off the chapter at 72.
Yeah,
That'd
I think
be
we
nice.
can finish the chapter. That would be good.
Yeah, a bit of consistency. All right. So it's back to me again, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. I'll pull it up on the screen for anyone who's watching the live stream. Chapter 2, text 68. Tasmad yasya mahabaho nigritani sarvasa indrityani triyat trevayas tasya pranjana pragyana pratististaha. Tasmat, therefore, yasya, of ones, mahabaho, almighty armed one, Nigritani, so curbed down. Sarvasa, all around. Indriyani, the senses. Indriya artavaya, for the sake of the sense objects. For the sake of sense objects. Tasya, his. Prajna, intelligence. Pragya, prastita, fixed. Translation. Therefore, O mighty armed one whose senses are restrained from their objects. Therefore, O mighty armed one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. Purport. As enemies are curbed by superior force, similarly the senses can be curbed not by any human endeavor, but only by keeping them engaged in the service of the Lord. One who has understood this, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence, and that one should practice this art under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, is called sadhaka, or suitable candidate for liberation, a suitable candidate for liberation. Yeah, the one thing that I see in this is that the senses, well, actually there's two things. The senses can be curbed not by any human endeavor, but only by keeping them engaged in the service of the Lord. So engaging in the service of the Lord is not a human endeavor. It's not a material endeavor. It's a purely spiritual endeavor that is of a superior force. So that should be encouraging for devotees. That, I mean, it reminds me of a photograph I saw on Facebook a few days ago, and it was a picture of a little cub of a lion, and the parent lion was very, very big, like very, very big behind the little lion cub. And the caption read, "This is how I feel when I am confronting the difficulties of the world in Krishna consciousness, because Krishna is there as a superior force. As the lion cub is not afraid because of the superior force of the fully grown lions around him, we can feel the same in the service of Krishna. So it is encouraging. That encouragement is the first thing I saw in this verse that jumped out at me. And also there's another interesting point, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence. That's quite interesting. I heard a similar quote recently where Prabhupada said, he said that unless one becomes a gentleman, we do not accept his education. And it says that vidya knowledge is the result of education, of becoming a gentleman. So like being a gentleman is the result of vidya. That's what he said. So this quote was meaning that if one has not attained this gentle nature, then it's not that it's not that we simply do not accept his knowledge. It's that he cannot have knowledge, because the result of he cannot have the result if he has not got the symptom. So in this way, that one cannot have intelligence unless he is established.
I would like to add to that point also, where Srila Prabhupada's,
like if someone purports to have intelligence but they're not established,
says
it's only by Krishna
mantra
consciousness.
that only has potency right source.
Oh,
only
sorry,
from the
Prahlad.
self-realized source.
Sorry, Prahlad Prabhu, you cut out for a minute there. Perhaps you could start again, because you cut out for a minute there just at the beginning.
Okay, I was going to say the Maha Mantra, for example, only has the right, takes its medicinal effect if it's from the proper source, the proper, it has to be
we
from a
lost.
self-realized, otherwise self-realized soul. It
Sorry,
will not have the same effect.
yeah, you cut out again just after you said proper source, unless it comes from the proper source, and then you need to finish. You need to finish from there.
For some reason, I'm cutting out a little bit.
Yeah.
So from the proper,
Sorry.
So from the proper source, and I said if someone.
Oh wait, it just cut out again. As soon as you got to, maybe keep this phone steady. See if
demon, like a serpent, by the lips of a serpent.
Prabhu, see if you can keep the phone steady and find some some good reception. It's funny because you cut out just as you got into your explanation again. Oh, he's on hold or something like this.
So strange.
Yeah, you need
on
better.
hold?
Yeah, Prabhu, there's a little thing saying he has bad reception or something. I'm not sure. There's a little there's a thing on Prahlad's name. I think we can see and hear you now, Prabhu. Can you talk?
Yeah, I can talk. It says I have good connection.
Okay, yeah, just try and yeah, whatever. Okay, we can hear you now, so you can finish your point.
Okay. I pretty much said that if you have to receive.
Oh, Krishna. Is everyone else hearing this? Tamara, are you hearing this as well?
Yeah, it's cutting out loads. Yeah, I can't hear.
It's like literally every time he tries to start his. Yeah. I don't know. Prahlad Prabhu, can you hear us?
Proper source. You pretty much know what I'm saying.
Maybe you could type it in the chat.
You pretty much know what I'm saying.
Yeah, unless we get it from the proper source, it's not going to act. Is this it?
Yes, and if you get it from a not proper source, anyone other than a proper source, then it won't act.
That's pretty much the gist of it. Is there anything else?
That's pretty much it. So it's along the lines of, if like an electric source, if you put in plug in a fan into a dead house, nothing's going to happen, but you have to.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what it says in the list, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence.
You have to plug it in, otherwise it won't work.
Yeah, so that's what it's saying. It's the only by the real source, Krishna, and the Krishna consciousness, which is the connection to the real source, is one really established in intelligence. So people can present Vidya as a but if they're not a gentleman, it is not real Vidya. And then they can present intelligence, but if it is not grounded in Krishna consciousness, then it is not real intelligence. And then that will manifest. Symptoms will obviously come from that. And that one should practice this art under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master is called sadhaka, or suitable candidate for liberation. So the source is said to be Krishna, but also through a spiritual master who is giving spiritual life, who is presenting Krishna. Does anyone else have anything to say on this? Victoria or Tamara or Ronald, if you're interested. Hare Krishna. We've got 7 people here now. Okay, everyone seems to be muted. Does anyone else?
I'm here, but no, nothing left to say.
Would anyone else like to say anything on this before we move on?
No.
No. No, okay. Okay. Ronald Prabhu, are you still with us? Are you still listening, or would you like to read? All right, Prabhu. Thomas, would you like to take over?
Sure.
Cool.
Text 69. Ya nisha sava bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyame yasyam jagrati bhutani nisha pasyato mune. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled. At the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. Purport. There are two classes of intelligent men. The one is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. Activities of the introspective sage or thoughtful man are night for persons materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self-realization. The introspective sage remains alert in the night of the materialistic men. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man in the materialistic activities, being asleep to self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy and sometimes distressed in his sleeping condition. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with his self-realization activities undisturbed by material reaction.
That's a really nice purport. Tamara, could I ask you to read that one again, actually, because it's really, really.
Read it again, yeah? Purport.
Yeah, it's like a heavy sort of. Yeah, it's good though. So could
Sure.
you please just translation and purport?
Yeah. What is night for all beings is a time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. Purport. There are two classes of intelligent men. The one is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. Activities of the introspective sage or thoughtful man are night for persons materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self-realization. The introspective sage remains alert in the night of the materialistic men. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man of materialistic activities, being asleep to self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy and sometimes distressed in a sleeping condition. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with his self-realization activities undisturbed by material reaction. Makes me think of the animals. The animals are on this sort of level. They're living in like a dream world.
Jai, yeah, Haribo. That's yeah.
These people are like, they're literally animals. They're literally in there.
When you say that, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
When you say that, it reminds me of Prabhupada's quote of the pig, like I think it was Brahma. Was he incarnated as a hog one time, and somebody came to him. Maybe it was Indra. It was either Indra or Brahma.
I think it was Indra. Yeah.
And then Brahma came to Indra and said, "Please come to the heavenly planets. We want you to take up some service." And he said, "No. I have hog duties."
Yeah.
So he's
got a pig wife, pig kids.
Yeah, hog wife, hog kids, and he has still to eat and things to things to do. So this is when you're reading that, I was thinking of this famous saying, "One man's trash is another man's treasure."
Yeah.
Like so you give to the animals and they are not interested, like the crows. They are interested in dirty things,
like throwing halava to the pigs. They don't like the halava, they like stool.
Yeah, Prabhupada said that one also. Yeah, that you cannot change a condition unless one uses spiritual life to change that condition. Well, obviously people are changing condition themselves, but by choice. But in order to be free from the binds of the condition, you cannot unless you become this introspective sage who is attracted by other things, like who Yeah, materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self-realization. The introspective sage remains alert in the night of materialistic men. So the introspective sage is attracted so much uh, that he is excited when they are thinking it is time to be bored. That's something that jumps out to me. Does anyone else see anything there?
I think it highlights the misery of being absorbed in sense gratification, and how being absorbed in sense gratification is no other. It's not better than being an animal, although you have a human form of life, and how much pretty much all of the souls are in darkness, and they are very unfortunate that they don't have this interest for self-realization. And well, also it gives you um, um, because we are in Kali Yuga, most of the people are in darkness, so it's really rare to find people who are in the light of devotional service.
Very, very rare.
Yeah.
Mind-bogglingly rare. To find an actual pure devotee.
Yeah.
It's the rarity is just mind-boggling.
Yes, and that's why also it's important to always keep a humble state of mind, because if we think that we are advanced and we have so much knowledge and such, we won't be able to become pure devotees. So we must always think ourselves as lower as the grass, no, and more tolerant than a tree.
Yes, this is what this verse is advising us to do. It is saying that the sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual, you could say also humble, because sometimes in humble things they go very slowly, you know. It is like the sages feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture. So
I think
transcendental.
the word, sorry, bro, the word gradual is very, very, very important, because well, sometimes we would wish to advance more quickly in spiritual life, but it's actually a very gradual process. Because, well, when I was reading the second chapter and the third one, it always says gradual development, gradual understanding. So it's very it's a slow process. It's not that easy to become a
There's
fully
one
realized soul.
There's one famous tale. It is the tortoise and the hare. Perhaps you have in Mexico also. No.
I don't know. Maybe you
There's
can tell
no.
me.
There's a famous children's story, and the story is that there's a race between a tortoise and a hare, and the hare is,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. So the hare becomes very proud and arrogant, and he thinks because he has won the race, he becomes lazy man and he lies down. But because the tortoise makes consistent gradual advancement, then he emerges victorious in the
Exactly,
end.
and it's also one of the principles for attaining devotional life. It's patience and always be enthusiastic. So patience and enthusiasm, they are two important factors for advancing in spiritual life.
Right, but this is that is method, but or sorry, that is part of it, but it is explaining here how, like, the sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas a man in materialistic activities, being half asleep to self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure. So one man is focused on transcendental pleasure, which means pleasing Krishna. I mean, this is such famous saying, please God, you know. So the sage feels transcendental pleasure whereas the materialist searches after varieties of pleasure. His dreams, they search after varieties of sense pleasure. So it is about who we please. This is like, because if Prabhupada was once asked, what is it all about? Like, what is everything about? What is life about? What is existence about? He was asked a question like this, and the devotees thought he would give some deep and philosophical answer, something that was very complicated or something like this. This may be a memory that someone else, there may be a quote of this, I'm not sure, but I seem to remember someone verified it, that Prabhupada had actually said this. He said that his answer was enjoyment. It's about enjoyment, because like, if you don't enjoy, then you will lose interest in things. So
that's very true. Very, very good point, and very good answer from part of Srila Prabhupada, because ultimately the soul wants ananda, right? Wants bliss.
Yeah.
And we want to enjoy that ananda in full knowledge and in eternity, right? But
right.
that's why we suffer in this material world, because we don't have an eternal body, we don't have a body who's full of ananda, and we don't have full knowledge. And I was going to make another point, but I forgot. Let me remember quickly. And
okay, sure. While you're remembering that, I had something to ask you. Do you remember also there was this point about you? We had a few verses back. There is this point that disturbance comes because people have a want of an ultimate goal. They have a want of it, meaning they have lost the ultimate goal, and that is where disturbance comes from. So in this regard, the pleasing Krishna is the ultimate goal, because when the finger pleases the body, the finger is pleased. So this point of the ultimate, this disturbance, this is the reason disturbance comes, is because people are not satisfied with the pleasure they are getting. Like, so they become disturbed and they think, let me go somewhere else. But it is saying here that the sage feels transcendental pleasure in gradual advancement. So there's no reason for him to leave if he is pure. So there's no reason for him to lose his ultimate goal. There's no reason for him to be disturbed. That I thought was very important. Perhaps you can finish if you remember your point, or we can ask if there's anyone else who would like to say something on this.
Yeah, my point was also that it's like a kid. A kid is playing with something, right? And you cannot make that kid leave that game if you don't engage him in a more interesting activity. So we are also like that. If we want to give up sense gratification, we have to be engaged in a superior taste, in the higher taste, right? So
Yeah,
that's why the sage can stay constantly in his gradual development, because he's constantly getting a higher taste and gradually becoming more perfect. Because the spiritual realization or devotional service is always increasing and it's always new.
Yeah, so it gives them the possibility, the potential, the reason. I mean, it's giving. It's like giving with God. Giving and love are synonymous. Like God is giving, and in this one thing, He is giving everything. He is giving us the reason. Prabhupada said the reason for being is enjoying. So He is giving us the reason to be, and then He is giving the methods to be. And He's also giving us the thing to maintain it as well at the same time. So in all things, He is giving this from this one thing.
Yeah. Okay. We have another devotee from India, Shreya. She's in Bengaluru, I think. Okay. She wants to read or she's listening. So
Joy.
Welcome, Shreya.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Herbal.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Shreya
Krishna.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Shreya
Krishna.
Jai
Shreya
Prabhupada.
Dasi.
So, oh, and Mahatma Prabhu is here also.
Yes, thank you for letting me in. I have my day off, so I thought I'd come by and say hello to everybody. Hari bol.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna.
Mahatma Prabhu. Lovely to meet you. I saw
Namaste.
you on some of Ronald's discussions before.
Fantastic.
Jai Prabhu. Okay,
Jai.
so we are going to continue reading, unless actually, does anyone else have anything to say on this after Victoria?
No.
No? Okay. Well, we have another few verses to go through. And Shreya Mataji, are you happy to read? Do you have a Bhagavad-Gita? Or can you see the screen? I can bring it
I
up on the
can, but
screen.
I would prefer you continue to read.
Oh, okay, you prefer. Okay, that is all right. Prabhu, Mahatma Prabhu, would you like to read one verse for us?
I'm sorry, let me get to the text.
Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, we are on chapter 2, verse 70, text 70.
Let's see where I'm
Okay.
starting here. Men are night for persons materially absorbed.
Um,
There we go. There are two classes of intelligent men.
no, text 70 is a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires.
You have to put it on the screen.
Oh yeah, sorry, oh sorry, you're looking at the
Yeah,
screen.
yeah.
My apologies.
I don't seem to catch it. Maybe somebody else should take it.
Oh no, it's I don't think it is coming. What is going on here?
You gotta put chapter then verse. You can't just put 70.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I've taken the chapter away. That is it. I've made a mistake. Thank you, Ronald. Sorry, Harry, but this is the text. Hopefully you can see this, Matt.
Mahaprabhu, maybe you can read now. The text is on the screen, Prabhu.
Where am I starting? Although the vast?
Well, if you can read the you can start with the translation if you like, or if you want to read the
Translation.
synonyms. Yeah, translation is fine.
Okay, here we go. Let's see what I got here. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Purport. Although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water. But the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit of its brink. That is always true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like the waters of the rivers that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities, and he is not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna conscious man, one who has lost all inclination for material sense gratification, although the desires are present, because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. He can remain steady, like the ocean, and therefore enjoy full peace. Others, however, who fulfill desires even up to the limit of liberation, want to speak of material success, never attain peace. the fruitive workers, the salvationists, and also the yogis who are after mystic powers are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. But the person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord, and he has no desires to be fulfilled. In fact, he does not even desire liberation from the so-called material bondage. The devotees of Krishna have no material desires, and therefore they are in perfect peace. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Hare Krishna,
What a
Mahatma Prabhu.
wonderful purport.
Jai,
Oh.
Mahatma, is there any one thing after reading that verse that jumps out on you that you could speak to the devotees?
What jumps out at me is that if we follow Krishna consciousness, we will always be fulfilled, even though we are in the material body.
That is perfect. That is
Hare Krishna.
exactly.
Jai.
Jai, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, if you would like to, if there's anything else you would like to say, you please say that as well. And if not, we will move and ask if anyone else has.
Move on, Prabhu, move on.
Sure. Okay. Would anyone else like to say anything about that very long purport, which is very, very deep and very, very instructive?
I was interested in talking about the Salvationists. So I tend to think of Salvationists as quite advanced, but they're all unhappy. Trying to like save your soul.
Right.
Yeah.
They're
so-
unhappy because they're wanting something. When
Yeah,
they hear it saying the devotee doesn't want anything,
they want to be
and
saved.
then
Their desire.
yes, so they have a
Jai.
desire. Devotee executes his duty, and whatever the result comes, it comes, either bad, good, whatever. It's up to Krishna. Prabhupada talks about this. And I think that's the sloka in the Bhagavad-Gita. Krishna is saying to Arjuna, you have the right to perform your duty, but you're not entitled to the fruits of it. So the duty of the devotee, you know?
There was one time I heard Prabhupada say this quote, and he said, "If things go nicely, it is Krishna's to Krishna's glory, and it is Krishna's credit. And if it goes wrong, it's your fault."
That's right.
So, oh yeah, Tamahara Prabhu, I need to step away from the computer for a moment. Perhaps you could chair the discussion on this, chair the meeting until I get back, and just and then we can move on to the next verse after that. But if anyone has anything else to say, Tamahara will speak with the devotees now. Is that okay, Tamahara?
Yeah, sure.
Jai Prabhu.
Okay. Anybody else any questions? Any thoughts on that purport?
This is a very important point. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities.
No
Yeah.
extraneous endeavor. No need
Yeah.
for anything. People work so hard for this little morsel of grass, like asses, mudha. Like carry so much burden on their backs, but in the end, there's grass available everywhere. So, yeah.
I also like the point where it says, as long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue, but that the body, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. So that means that we should not be disturbed even if such desires still appear. We should still continue with our devotional service and do not pay much attention to them.
Right.
Yeah, I like the comparison of a Krishna conscious person in the still ocean. Just remain steady. Always. Okay.
Okay.
Wait for Greg, I suppose.
Hare Krishna.
Please.
Jai.
Jai.
Yeah, I didn't exactly hear everything. I heard a lot of what was said. And yeah, I'm trying to find in the middle of the purport, there was something that I wanted to say, something about, I mean, there's something I saw that I thought was useful. Desires may come to him like the waters of the rivers that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities. He is not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. Again, this is Prabhupada talking about the rarest thing among devotees, which is the thing that he said, a man in Krishna consciousness who is not disturbed is very rare. So, I mean, this is what logically, even the karmis, even the materialists, they want this. They want not to be disturbed because all their activities are trained upon this. They're trying to make a situation for themselves where they're not disturbed. Even the impersonalists, they are also trying to, as Tamahara said in this previous verse, where or as Ronald actually said in this previous verse, he delineated the three different types of people, and the materialists, the impersonalists, and the devotees, and all of their activities are trained on this purpose, to become not disturbed by things, to be peaceful, to enjoy.
All seeking pleasure.
Yeah, and they're all coming up with different ways of doing it and different ways of coming to these arrangements, but they are their own arrangements, and they're different to the arrangements of a devotee, because the devotee does not have his own arrangements. So Prabhupada is giving a clear instruction how to get the most valuable thing, the thing that everybody wants. Without any intelligent person can figure out that's what everybody wants. And I mean, it's not just one thing. It's not being disturbed. It's having peace, and then it's enjoying and having pleasure. So it's a few things, but if you do not have all of them, you will be disturbed. So I'm very grateful that I'm sitting here reading this and sharing this with Prabhus such as yourselves, because it's a very nice thing to be reading. So,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So does anyone else, is there anything else about this? So yeah, the verse says,
So Craig, maybe you can make an announcement on the Zoom, so if people want to join who are watching online.
Yeah, well, you mean to share the link?
No, the people who are watching live, how they can join the Zoom meeting.
Oh, how they can join the Zoom meeting? The only way I can imagine they would be able to join is if I share the link, which I can do now. I can put the link up, and then if anyone is watching, they're welcome to come in. I'll put it in the chat. The people who are watching, they can see the chat also, right? Is it?
No, they cannot see the chat. So if they want to join, what they can do is in the description of the video, we have a WhatsApp group. You can click on that, and then you'll join the group. And in the group, whenever we go live, we'll post the link there, so they can join. Whoever's watching online on YouTube and Facebook.
Okay. So if you go into the description of the video, you should see a link to a WhatsApp group, and then in the link to the WhatsApp group, there should be a link to a Zoom meeting, and Is there a passcode also for people who do not have a Zoom account? You should post this also, Ronald.
That will be in the WhatsApp group. You'll have to join the WhatsApp group for that. There's a group that we
Yeah,
created for that.
yeah. So if you follow the link on YouTube in the description to the WhatsApp group, then there will be a link to the Zoom meeting, and there should also be a passcode as well if you need it. Sometimes people need it if they don't have a Zoom account, I believe. Yeah. So with that, yeah, we can move on to the last and final verse. Oh no, second
last, yeah.
Second last verse. So yeah. I'll pull it up on the screen. If who's reading now? Is it Ronald?
You guys read, Prabhu. I'm just kind of busy here. I'm
Okay.
listening only today.
Sure.
Victoria,
Sure. I've lost track. Is it Victoria again?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm bringing it up on the screen now. I just need to share the screen for you. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Sorry. Sorry. You need the Sanskrit, isn't it? Oh no, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Vihaya kamanya sarvam pumamscharati nispriha nirmamo nirahankara sasantiadikachati. Translation: a person who has given up all desire for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. Purport: to become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. To understand one's actual position as the eternal servitor of Krishna without falsely claiming this material body to be oneself and without falsely claiming proprietorship over anything in the world is a perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. One who is situated in this perfect stage knows that because Krishna is a proprietor of everything, therefore everything must be used for the satisfaction of Krishna. Arjuna did not want to fight for his own sense satisfaction, but when he became fully Krishna conscious, he fought because Krishna wanted him to fight. For himself, there was no desire to fight, but for Krishna, the same Arjuna fought to his best ability. Desire for the satisfaction of Krishna is really desirelessness. It is not an artificial attempt to abolish desires. The living entity cannot be desireless or senseless, but he does have to change the quality of the desires. A materially desireless person certainly knows that everything belongs to Krishna. Isha vasyam idam sarvam. And therefore, he does not falsely claim proprietorship over anything. This transcendental knowledge is based on self-realization, namely, knowing perfectly well that every living entity is the eternal part and parcel of Krishna in spiritual identity, and therefore, the eternal position of the living entity is never on the level of Krishna or greater than him. This understanding of Krishna consciousness is the basic principle of real peace.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, is there anything that from reading that to us, is there anything that impressed itself upon you?
I think the last part, where we have to know that we are servitors of Krishna, and that therefore, because we're servitors of Krishna, we are in the same quality of Krishna, but not in the same quantity. And that's an important principle to understand our constitutional position.
Hare Hare.
Try. Yeah. We should be servitor. Servitor is our natural position. So like we cannot be, that we will always be disturbed if we're not in a natural position. It's like if someone sleeps in an uncomfortable, unnatural position, they wake up with a bad neck or something like this, bad shoulder, you know. So our natural position, if you exist in an unnatural position, disturbance and discomfort is a natural symptom of that. Yeah. So this is
and we should not be governed by that.
Yeah, we should not be the servant of the unnatural. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. The living entity cannot be desireless or senseless, but he does have to change the quality of the desires. Like, I can't remember, was it the verse ahead of this or the verses beyond this when I read this a few days ago, but something jumped out to me, and that was Prabhupada said somewhere that that the desires are going to be there. Like, the desires are going to be there, but someone who is in Krishna consciousness does not strive to satisfy those desires. He doesn't strive to not satisfy, but to fulfill them. I think this was one of the previous verses. Perhaps someone could remind that he said, someone in Krishna consciousness does not strive to fulfill those desires. And I like, that's a very nice concept, because it means Krishna cares about people, and that the desires are there and he will fulfill them. Like, there's another verse in the Bhagavad-Gita, and it says he is granting the desires of every living entity. But the living entities sometimes become disturbed, and they become worried that the desires will not be fulfilled. So they make it their business to fulfill them. And then they become distracted from Krishna. And then the whole calamity begins all over again. So like this, I thought this was a nice point, but it's not even in this verse, sorry, but it is very similar to this verse, where he is saying the living entity cannot be desireless or senseless, but he does have to change the quality of the desires. Like, you may have desires that are still, even, they may not even be material desires. There may be desire for prasadam, or a desire for family life in Krishna consciousness, or a desire, they may still be desires, but he does not have to fulfill these desires. He simply has to serve Krishna. Or as Mahatma Prabhu said, serve not the unnatural, and then things will work out. Yeah. Is there anything else that anyone else would like to say on this?
I think it's so important that we need to operate from the jiva as much as, and as difficult as it may be, because the material holds us down. And our mind, of course, is influenced by the way we brought up and everything we've learned. But if we learn to try to operate from the jiva, I think we'll be on the right path.
Yeah, I agree with what Mahatma Prabhu is saying. And there's a quote from the teachings of Lord Chaitanya in the chapter of teachings to Sanatana Goswami that I would like to read to you, because it's it explains perfectly our constitutional position. And I will read it to you.
Yeah, Jai, please do read it.
Your constitutional position is that you are a pure living soul, the Lord told Sanatana. This material body cannot be identified with your real self, nor is your mind your real identity, nor your intelligence, nor your false ego. Your identity is that of eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Your position is that you're transcendental. The superior energy of Krishna is spiritual in constitution, and the inferior energy, external energy, is material. Since you are between the material energy and the spiritual energy, your position is marginal. Belonging to the marginal potency of Krishna, you are simultaneously one and different from Krishna. Because you are spirit, you are not different from Krishna, and because you are only a minor particle of Krishna, you are different from him.
Hare Krishna.
Jai, and the materialistic man says, no, that is not good enough. I want something else.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But
Right.
the reason I say that is because earlier Ronald Prabhu brought up this point of, is there a true designation? And I said it was the true ego. Like
Exactly. And
the true ego is so if there's a true designation or a true ego, this should encourage the devotees. It should be like when you're given the true, when the materialistic man is given the true description of himself, he says, no, that could not be me. It is too low quality. I need something else. But if a devotee is to hear this, they would be encouraged, and they would think that this is a very nice description. I will take this position. I will take this job. Thank you.
yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So, does anyone have anything to say on the verse Victoria read, or the verse that led to that? No. Shreya Mataji, do you have anything to add?
Shreya Prabhu.
Yeah. Oh no, I think she's muted at the moment. She's probably listening now. Okay, so who's next to read? Does anyone know?
I think it's you, Prabhu.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'll read the last one then. Okay. All right. Chapter 2, text 72. Esa Brahmi Stiti Partha Nainam Papya Vimuyati Stitvasyam Anata Kelapi Brahmanyavanam Rachati. Esa, this, Brahmi, spiritual, Stiti, situation, Partha, O son of Pratha, Na, never, Inam, this, Prapya, achieving, Vimuyati, bewilders, Stitva, being so situated, Asyam, being so, Antakale, at the end of life, Api, also, Brahma Nirvanam, spiritual kingdom of God, Richati, attains. Translation: that is the way of spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. Being so situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. Purport: one can attain Krishna consciousness or divine life at once, within a second, or one may not attain such a state of life even after millions of births. It is only a matter of understanding and accepting the fact. Katvanga Maharaj attained this state of life just a few minutes before his death by surrendering unto Krishna. Nirvana means ending the process of materialistic life. According to Buddhist philosophy, there is only void after the completion of this material life. But Bhagavad-Gita teaches differently. Actual life begins after the completion of this material life.
Hare Krishna.
For this gross materialist, it is sufficient to know that one has to end this materialistic way of life. But for persons who are spiritually advanced, there is another life for this materialistic there's another life after this materialistic life. Before ending this life, if one fortunately becomes Krishna conscious, he at once attains the stage of Brahma Nirvana. Sorry, I didn't read that correctly, so I'll read it again. For the gross materialist, it is sufficient to know that one has to end this materialistic way of life. But for persons who are spiritually advanced, there is another life after this materialistic life. Before ending this life, if one fortunately becomes Krishna conscious, he at once attains the stage of Brahma Nirvana. There is no difference between the kingdom of God and devotional service of the Lord, since both of them are on the absolute plane. To be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is to have attained the spiritual kingdom. In the material world, there are activities of sense gratification, whereas in the spiritual world, there are activities of Krishna consciousness. Attainment of Krishna consciousness, even during this life, is immediate attainment of Brahman. And one who is situated in Krishna consciousness has certainly already entered into the kingdom of God. Brahman is just the opposite of matter. Therefore, Brahmi Sthiti means not on the platform of material activities. Devotional service of the Lord is accepted in the Bhagavad-Gita as the liberated stage. Therefore, Brahmi Sthiti is liberation from material bondage. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has summarized the second chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita as being the contents for the whole text. In the Bhagavad-Gita, the subject matters are Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. In the second chapter, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga have been clearly discussed, and a glimpse of Bhakti Yoga has also been given as the contents for the complete text. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad-Gita in the matter of its contents. Jai, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So now that we've read the verses that lead up to the end of the second chapter, I should say that the first thing I saw when I was reading this was that Prabhupada says here in the purports, sorry, I'm trying to find it here. There is no difference between the kingdom. There's no difference between the kingdom of God and the devotional service of the Lord. So, if one is situated in service, then it is as good as it is both the process and the result at the same time. And because it's absolute, they're non-different. So it's totally different to the materialistic concept of life, where one has to always chase the result, and then the process is suffering. But with Krishna, he's so merciful that the process and the result are the same.
Hare Krishna.
So the first thing that jumped out at me was the mercy of Krishna. This is how merciful he is, that we can become a servant, and that can be enough. And our delusion is thinking it's not enough and desiring something more. It brings to mind a lyric I heard in a song one time, and it's like when you want more than you need, it's a tragedy. Which
Makes sense.
So is there anyone else? Sorry, anyone else have anything to say about that? Jai.
Actual life begins after the completion of this material life.
Right. That's like, that's it. Real life is a life where where we're not disturbed, and where we're satisfied with with um with simple service, and having our desires granted when they should be granted, and not when we think they should be granted.
And we can experience that right now in this material life. Is that correct?
This second, Prabhu. Prabhupada says you can experience it this second.
Hare Krishna.
If you surrender to Krishna and you want to please him, then that's what you already are doing.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Thomas Prabhu.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on this concluding verse?
I was thinking about Buddhist philosophy, and because they do believe in reincarnation, but the ultimate goal is to become void. I'm just wondering if they have the same sort of idea where you become merged with this void after, in a moment, or take many lifetimes, millions of births. I don't know much about Buddhist philosophy, but does it run along sort of the same lines as Vaishnava philosophy?
Yeah. Their goal is to turn off the game.
Yeah.
to pull the switch.
Yeah.
And then the game is over.
Mm.
So it is strange because they don't want anything, but they do a lot to get that nothing that they supposedly will get. They go through the millions of births, and then they go through the process of undoing those millions of births, and then and then the undoing is what they want. They want it undone, or they believe that's what they want, at least. They want nothing, essentially, or they purport to want nothing. Is it?
No more activity.
Yeah, he mentions it here in this, that nirvana means ending the process of materialistic life. According to Buddhist philosophy, there is only void after the completion of the material life, but Bhagavad-Gita teaches differently. Actual life begins after the completion of this material life. So what does that mean? That means they've got it wrong.
Yeah.
That means they're
couldn't get it more wrong, to be honest.
They must think that this is the highest form of life then.
Yeah.
Because they don't believe in actual life beginning. They believe in they believe in this life, and then they believe in this life being merged into the void. So they believe in the ending of this life. So they must be quite frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going through all those millions of births just to become frustrated.
Yeah. And their highest philosophy is the undoing of it. Like they realize material life is doing things in a bad way. So their solution is undo everything. But it doesn't make sense because there is no positive. So they take only the negative from the material life, but they forget that if material came from somewhere, it must come from Krishna. So as we know, but they're taking that the positive is like, in order to give something, you must have it. So in order for this world to have positivity, it must have got it from somewhere. So they are interested in undoing everything, but then where is the doing? There must be some doing also.
They want to
So,
sort of end suffering, don't they?
Well, this is then a question to ask to a Buddhist. What will you do for the rest of your life, your eternity? What will you do? Not what will you undo, but what will you do? And yeah, and the answer here is given for the devotees, that they will serve and be happy with it.
Jai.
So, Victoria, is there any thoughts you have on this verse before we move on?
It's ultimately they are envious of Krishna. That's why they don't want to recognize the Supreme Lord, and also there are activities in the material world. Therefore, because they exist in the material world, they also have to exist in the spiritual world. So just here they are diverted into sense gratification, and in the spiritual world it's pure love for Krishna. So, but they don't accept that. They want to ultimately stop all the activities.
Yeah, that makes sense, that they would stop the activities because they're envious, and they're perhaps they're a little bit, with their envy comes a little bit of fear as well. They're afraid.
Yeah, and I like what you said, that they do a lot to do nothing.
Yeah, they do a lot to do nothing.
Yeah.
They want to avoid, they want to stop things. Like there's a story one time about Prabhupada in an airport, and he came to the airport, and the devotees, they had taken some flowers, and they were sprinkling the flower petals on where Prabhupada was walking. So Prabhupada would walk on flower petals, and Prabhupada walked over and sat down on a seat, and the devotees took a seat at his feet to hear what he would have to say. And one security guard came over very angry, and he said, "This must be stopped. These flower petals, you have made such a mess. You have put flower petals all up. There's flower petals everywhere." So he was trying to put a stop to this. And Prabhupada turned to him and he said, "So you do not like flowers?" and the security guard said, "Look, it is a terrible mess, and you have made it, so you must clean it up." And Prabhupada turned to the devotees and said, "See, there is cigarette butts everywhere, and they do not say a thing. But some flowers they do not like." So this is a similar concept, that like the positive elements, they're either envious or they're afraid, and they want to put a stop to the positive elements. People want to avoid things. Like perhaps the security guard is a little afraid, if the flower petals remain, he might become attracted to Krishna consciousness and give up his job as a security guard. And this would interfere with his material desires. So his solution is, let us clear up the flower petals very quickly. This is very similar.
Yeah, it's very nice story.
Sorry.
Prabhus, I need to go run some material errands and pay some material bills, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay.
It was a pleasure to be in your presence. Keep me in your chants. Keep me in your prayers.
Yeah, it was lovely to have you, and thank you for reading for us and joining us and sharing your.
Thank you so much.
Sharing
Thank
with
you,
everything
Prabhu.
you have. Jai Hare Krishna Prabhu. Okay, so Victoria Mataji, you said there was a verse at the end of the Bhagavad-Gita you would like to discuss also?
Yes, it's the it's on 9th chapter, and it's text 30.
13?
Yeah, 30.
30?
Yeah.
30, okay. Okay. Would you like to wait? Did you read the last one? It was me. So, as it's your verse, would you like to read this one?
Yeah, sure. Api chet suduracharo
Oh, sorry.
bhajate mam ananya bak sadure va samantavya samyag vyavasito hi saha. Api, in spite of, chet, although, sudurachara, one committing the most abominable actions, bhajate, engaged in devotional service, mam, unto me, ananya bak, without deviation, sadhu, saint, eva, certainly, saha, he, mantavya, to be considered, samyak, completely, vyavasita, situated, he, certainly, sa, he. Translation: even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. Purport: the word suduracharo used in this verse is very significant, and we should understand it properly. When a living entity is conditioned, he has two kinds of activities. One is conditional, and the other is constitutional. As for protecting the body or abiding by the rules of society and state, certainly there are different activities, and even for the devotees, in connection with the conditional life, and such activities are called conditional. Besides this, the living entity who is fully conscious of his spiritual nature and is engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service of the Lord has activities which are called transcendental. Such activities are performed in his constitutional position, and they are technically called devotional service. Now, in the conditioned state, sometimes devotional service and the conditional service in relation to the body will parallel one another. But then again, I'm sorry, but then again, I lost track. But then again, sometimes these activities become opposed to one another. As far as possible, a devotee is very cautious so that he does not do anything that could disrupt his wholesome condition. He knows that perfection in his activities depends on his progressive realization of Krishna consciousness. Sometimes, however, it may be seen that a person in Krishna consciousness commits some act which may be taken as most abominable socially or politically. But such a temporary fall down does not disqualify him. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that if a person falls down but is wholeheartedly engaged in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, the Lord, being situated within his heart, beautifies him and excuses him for that abomination. The material contamination is so strong that even a yogi fully engaged in the service of the Lord sometimes becomes ensnared. But Krishna consciousness is so strong that such an occasional fall down is at once rectified. Therefore, the process of devotional service is always a success. No one should deride a devotee for some accidental fall down from the ideal path, for as is explained in the next verse, such occasional fall down will be stopped in due course as soon as a devotee is completely situated in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person who is situated in Krishna consciousness is engaged with determination in the process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Should be considered to be in the transcendental position, even if by chance or accident he is found to have fallen. The words Sadhureva, he is saintly, are very emphatic. They are a warning to the non-devotees that because of an accidental fall down, a devotee should not be derided. He should still be considered saintly, even if he has fallen down accidentally. And the word mantavya is still more emphatic. If one does not follow this rule and derides a devotee for his accidental fall down, then he is disobeying the order of the Supreme Lord. The only qualification of a devotee is to be unflinchingly and exclusively engaged in devotional service. The mark of a spot which may be seen on the moon does not become an impediment to the moonlight. Similarly, the accidental fall down of a devotee from the path of a saintly character does not make him abominable. On the other hand, one should not misunderstand that a devotee in transcendental devotional service can act in all kinds of abominable ways. This verse only refers to an accident due to the strong power of material connections. Devotional service is more or less declaration of war against the illusionary energy. As long as one is not strong enough to fight the illusory energy, there may be accidental fall downs. But when one is strong enough, he is no longer subject to such fall downs as previously explained. No one should take advantage of this verse and commit nonsense and think that he's still a devotee. If he does not improve in his character by devotional service, then it is to be understood that he is not a high devotee.
Jai Hare Krishna. So is there something you had in mind before you told us you wanted to read this, or even while you're reading it?
Yeah, like what activities would there be considered to be an accidental fall down, and what activities would be considered an intentional fall down, and
Well, he doesn't mention any activities in this which would be considered. So he says in this all activities. So it doesn't seem to be the nature of the activity, but it more that the person's attitude towards that activity, and also the repentance afterwards. But he does say abominable activities, and in Vedic society there's so many things are considered abominable, like in Vedic society, even things that people consider normal these days would be considered abominable, even also. Like, I don't know, like people think meat eating is very normal these days, but it is abominable because it is killing. So any breach of the regulative principles is abominable. But then there's different degrees to those breaches of how abominable they can be. Like it is simple, like in speculative gambling, someone could gamble a little small amount, or they could speculate they would get away with stealing millions or billions, So and to deprive someone else of their wealth, that can have serious consequences. So there's degrees to how abominable each regulative principle can be broken. That's the first thing. I mean, if anyone else has an answer to this, or if you can ask more about what you want from the question.
I like what you said, that there are degrees of breaking the principles. Like it's not you break one principle, there are degrees, and you can accidentally eat meat, maybe or eat egg or something like that, but it was an accident, or you can purposefully eat meat, and a lot of meat, so it's different.
But he does say in this verse that someone can misuse it to commit all kinds of nonsense.
Yes, exactly. That's why
it reminds me. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry.
Okay.
That's why it's I'm sorry. That's why it's a little difficult, because how can you differentiate between an accidental fall down and a purposefully fall down on someone?
Well, usually the symptoms would be, it cast my mind back to one of the verses we were reading previously. And he was saying in one of the previous verses from chapter 2 that the materialistic person dreams of various kinds of material material pleasures. He dreams of various kinds of material pleasures, whereas the devotee seeks satisfaction in transcendental pleasure. So the transcendental pleasure is singular, and the materialistic person, he is so frustrated that he is going from pleasure to pleasure to pleasure. It is multiple because he is not getting satisfaction. So he is again and again multiplying. So in the material example, it is singular. And this is given an example of the accidental fall down is a spiritual fall down. So
okay. So
because
here
it is
it's
a
like,
spiritual, it's a singular thing. And then he says the person who, but someone should not use this to commit all kinds of, which is multiple, like all kinds of sinful activities, plural. You know, so he's saying like it is a momentary thing where someone falls down. And
it makes me think of sort of the Catholic Christians when they go to confess their sins. They go in there, they tell the priest all the things they've done wrong, and then as soon as they leave the church, they go and commit it again. It's like that's along the same sort of lines of like continuing to, what was it? It's not an accidental fall down anymore. It's like purposeful.
I was talking with devotees about this similar sort of a thing recently. It was about repentance. I wish I could. No, I was wishing I had some shastra that was coming to mind. Perhaps some will come to mind. But the point was that if someone repents of something, they don't carry it with them while they walk around. Like if you repent of something, then you've put it aside and apologized for it. But if you repent insincerely, then you think you've repented, maybe in your delusion. But the reality is, repentance means to put it aside also. So if you're still carrying it with you, then you have not solidified your commitment to turn your back on it. And that seems to be, as you're saying in this, like, if someone has, though someone may fall down, if they repent of it, after they have, like he says at the end here, if he does not, the last sentence is, if he does not improve in his character by devotional service, then it is to be understood that he is not a high devotee. Now, to improve in one's character, one must, like they say about the alcoholics, the first thing is you must admit you have a problem. You see? So this is sincere admitting that you have a problem. The only way to improve character is by repenting of your mistakes.
But then you can't do it over and over again.
Right. And you can't do it over and over again. And you can't repeat it consistently. However, is it possible? Like, I've meditated on this myself. I don't have a conclusive answer to this one because, and perhaps someone more advanced will provide it at some point, but the repentance, there are some Christians, for example, who say, if you really, really repent of something, you never do it again. But I mean, we're in a conditional state. So if someone was to do it again, like, I don't know for a fact if sincere repentance means you will never commit an act again, but if you were to fall down, then there would be no need to hold on to it and commit it repetitively if it was momentary. So, yeah.
Makes me think that, because I occasionally I do eat calming food. That's one thing I'm kind of, I mean, it says that if you eat anything that's not offered, you rarely just eating sin. And so when I go visit family or something, and they cook for me, they make it vegetarian, but still it's not offered or anything like that.
But
That makes me feel,
that's not necessarily sinful. Like I mean, actually, I don't know if this is a verified story or not. I think you can find some things in the literature about Prabhupada where Prabhupada even took, like, there was one story that Prabhupada took a kachori on a train, and devotees looked at him and said, like, allegedly, they looked at him and said, Prabhupada, you've told us so many times it is sinful to eat things prepared by the hands of non-devotees. And then he said, but when you're hungry, you will eat anything. So his point was that they were without facility.
right.
Now, that's not a concrete example because that was a secondhand story, but I believe there are other ways there are things in the literature which will prove this. But my point in relation to what we are talking about right now is that if it's about regularity. Like if you get into the regular habit of ordering a takeaway every night to your house that is not prasadam, and you become lazy man and you think, I will let someone else do for me. That is you have a facility, you have your kitchen right there, and you could be cooking for the Lord. But instead you decide to waste money ordering takeaways and having someone else to do it for you. So that is a regular habit. But if you are traveling across the world, or you are with your family for some event where you have some duty to your family, so maybe you need to go, and you are hungry, then this is not a regular thing. It is happening sometimes, but it is not consistent. It is not you repent of it. You're sorry that you have to do it, but maybe you have to do it. You see?
Yeah.
It is different to becoming like, there's one saying, familiarity breeds contempt, you know?
Yeah.
So if you become familiar and if you become overly familiar with Krishna, who is everything, then you can think, I don't need to take things so seriously. And then it's that mentality that leads to irregular habits. So, and it's an unrepentant, you're not sorry for what you're doing. So this is a different thing to somebody who is having a singular moment where they are without facility, or they make a mistake. And it doesn't say, I mean, well, it does actually say Krishna will excuse the person. But I'm pretty sure I heard Prabhupada say in a lecture that I was hearing a couple of days ago, that someone said to Prabhupada, it was a question and it was a conversation, and I did hear it. Someone asked Prabhupada, if someone commits a sinful activity and they repent, does Krishna still punish them for it? And Prabhupada said, yes, he still punishes them, but it is diminished. For the devotees, it is diminished. So if someone commits a sinful activity, Prabhupada was saying that he's excused to a certain degree. Like Prabhupada once gave the example that if you have not turned to God and your punishment is to lose a hand, but you turn to God, then you will simply get a cut. It will only be a cut on the arm, not a whole hand missing. So the punishment will still be there. But it is, it is not that yeah, like he's saying that Krishna will excuse, but to what degree will Krishna excuse? That is the thing. Like Prabhupada is saying that he does not excuse everything. So yeah, does that
Yes. Yeah,
it's clear? Victoria, is there anything from that which you're looking for?
Yeah, it's good that we can talk about this, because it's not that easy to continuously maintain oneself in a perfect condition. So, but as you say, it's a singular, not a plural. So that's something to take in mind.
Yeah, well, he's making it very, very clear that if someone has, if like Prabhupada once said that the rascal, he takes the exception and he makes it the rule.
Yeah.
So this is also the same thing. Like,
Okay.
so an exception, I think this also comes from the word excuse now, ex, like to extricate, to remove, you know, so to excuse, to extricate, to accept, ex, to accept something means to, like, the exception. So the exception should never become the rule. These are things which God can remove from his own mercy. But if you take his mercy and then you abuse it, then you will lose. Like it reminds me of a parable from the Bible. And there was a person and he was excused of a debt. And he went to the person who had excused his debt, and he was so grateful. And he fell down at his feet and he thanked him. And he told him, "Thank you for excusing my debt. This is wonderful. You've liberated me from this burden." And then a short time later, he was the one who was the creditor, and somebody else owed him a debt. But he was very, very harsh to them, and he would not forgive the debt. And he even laid many, many heavy things verbally upon them. Like he made them, he was very harsh to them. And the person who had forgiven their debt, the person who had forgiven their debt originally heard about this, and he had the authority. Maybe he was the king, maybe he was someone important, but he had the authority to change his original decision. And he punished this person harshly, because he took this man before everybody and he said, "You were excused and you were so grateful, but you do not extend the mercy to this other person. So I will punish you for this." Is what was done. He was punished for not carrying forward for not doing unto others as was done unto him. So in this way, if Krishna is very, very merciful and he excuses someone's abominable activity on one occasion, and the person thinks he can then take this and use this as a license to do nonsense, then his punishment will be very severe, because he is misusing the Lord's mercy when he was excused. So that's what I've learned about from the Bhagavad-Gita and from that parable from the Bible.
Yeah, that's nice. And also not to dwell in lamentation because you have done something that's not as with saintly character, no? Like maybe you didn't wake up early one day, you know, and you get stuck in a lamentation. Oh, I didn't get up early today, I'm such a fool. And then next day you won't get up early again because you're stuck in that lamentation. So it's also not good to lament. Just try to continue and Krishna will help you, no?
Yeah, this is good instruction. This is like,
Yeah, I tell you because it has happened to me and it's horrible. So
yeah, like, but everything is coming from Krishna for sure. So if we accept the mercy of the Lord, if he is merciful to excuse us for something, we should take it. We should take it. Like it's like this goes back to the original. This goes back to what we discussed in the second chapter, and one who meditates on Vishnu, he knows how to deal with all of these material things. So even if it is material lamentation from not rising early or something like this, if one meditates on Vishnu, he will not, Vishnu is merciful.
yeah, it won't stay long. It will burn eventually.
It will burn quickly. Yeah. This is the verse. This is the exact verse. Vishnu will burn it up because Vishnu is the fire.
Yeah.
So he will burn it immediately. But if you do not want Vishnu, then Vishnu will not force himself. He will leave it. He will leave the position void, and then you will have to decide what to do with it.
So it also has to do with how much you have accepted Krishna in your heart.
Right.
Like till up to what degree you are surrendered, because we commit so many faults, you know, like we have talked, we are conditioned, we commit mistakes, but up to what point you are truly surrendered, you have truly unflinching faith in your spiritual master and Krishna. Like we have to question up to what point we are truly surrendered.
Well, it's really for asking for help. Like to ask for help. It's like the story of the little bird and Garuda, you know, and
yes.
And the little bird endeavored to try and clear the ocean, and Garuda came to help. It reminds me something of a Christian man once told me about the Bible. He told me that the Old Testament, the Bible, the laws of the Old Testament were so difficult to follow, and everything, all of the laws of God are made. It is all made in such a way, like the whole material creation is made in such a way that everything is so difficult to follow, and the purpose of it is to get us to surrender. The purpose is for us to become frustrated and stop trying to solve the problems ourselves, and then to say, oh Krishna, please come as Vishnu in my heart and burn everything. I cannot deal with it anymore, please burn everything.
Yeah, that it's nice. It's good to be frustrated in the material world. Srila Prabhupada said that it's good because we're not meant to be happy here. So,
yeah, he said that is the first qualification for studying these kind of things. The first qualification is you become dissatisfied with the material world.
Disgusted.
And then you're saying this.
Disgusted with the material world.
Disgusted, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're disgusted, and then you're disgusted, you are frustrated, dissatisfied. Yeah. All of these things, these must help. And then we can turn to Krishna and ask him to burn it all. Not the world, but
no, the world is burning because we commit sinful acts. It's literally burning.
Yeah. This is the song at the beginning of the day in each temple. There's one verse, and it is the material world is like a forest fire.
Yes.
That burns
and the spiritual master is the one who pours the water in material existence, right?
Right. So this is an opposite example of the same thing. The spiritual master and Vishnu extinguish one fire and they begin another one.
Okay. Extinguish the fire of material existence but at the same time they burn
ignite.
all material anartas, no?
Yeah, they light the fire in the heart that burns the anartas, and they extinguish the fire in the world that disturbs the jiva.
Very nice.
As the material senses do not the three material miseries do not exist for one who is in Krishna consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
If you
So
remember,
that's the only way we can realize that is through practice and through experiencing it ourselves, because we can say it, but we still have to experience it and to realize all that knowledge.
well, actually, there was one Mataji, it was actually yourself, who asked me this question a few days ago. And he said to me, we can only realize these things through practice. And well, I disagreed with you. I said that
Okay.
I said that sadhana bhakti, we can attain these things through sadhana bhakti, which means practice. But there is also the possibility of
that's true.
kripa siddha, or sadhana siddha is practice.
And kripa siddha is by mercy.
But kripa siddha is mercy, as Jagai and Madai got. Jagai and Madai got mercy, and it says in the quote from Prabhupada, it said there was no practice. There was no sadhana.
Mm-hmm.
But when they got the mercy, they must have realized something. They realized they were eternal servants of Krishna, and they surrendered to their guru.
Well, that's a proof of how wonderful devotional service is. It's never mechanic. It's never mechanical or very strict in that way, that you can get that kripa siddha and realize fully God without doing any sadhana.
Say that again.
I'm sorry. That that's it makes you realize how wonderful devotional service is, because it's never mechanic.
Yeah, it is not that sadhana bhakti is the only
way. Exactly.
Yeah, like it is not forced mechanical it is not a forced mechanical system where you must. That is actually often a criticism that Krishna conscious devotees receive many times from Christians. There's branches of Christianity, and they believe in salvation by grace alone. And they believe that many of the world religions, the fault with the world religions is that they do not have grace, they do not have mercy. They are only based on works, and you work your way to heaven. Everything is
but that's also a sort of two edges. Like, you can say that and be a lazy man and stop doing your any type of austerity, because human life is meant for austerity. So you can say, oh, I only get salvation by grace, and I do not do anything, and Lord Jesus Christ will save me, and I still commit sinful acts. So it's not.
Yeah, it is. I don't believe this is a correct Christian teaching. It is there's a Christian teaching, like I believe, according to the Christian teaching, that grace puts you on the path. That's salvation. That's salvation. You're placed on the path. But then there's sanctification also. And sanctification means you have to walk it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like and that means you must actively participate. Like, there must be some energy on your own part. And it reminds me of some thing I saw in Dublin one time. There was a hostel. It was a homeless hostel, and obviously they're helping people. So there was a mural painted on the back of the hostel. You could see it from the train station, and it said, "We are offering a hand up, not a hand out." So this is the same concept, that if they're not giving everything it is a free service if someone gives you their hand and they will pull you up from the pool. They will pull you out of the sea. They will save you from drowning. So it is a free service, but if you do not grip their hand, then you have not participated.
Or you jump again into the water, no?
Yeah. Like if you give someone handout, if you just give them for free, then they will not be able to get out of the water because they will not have the strength. They will take it very cheaply because they have not participated. They will take cheaply, and then maybe they will be attracted again to material things.
Well, actually, Srila Prabhupada said that Kripa Siddha, they are more fortunate. Yeah. They're more fortunate.
So sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to go now.
Yeah, it's okay.
I got work.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a great experience. Very nice.
Yeah,
Jai
it was
Prabhu,
very
thank
nice.
you for thank you for taking the time and reading with us and sharing everything you have.
No problem.
Jai, perhaps we can do again sometime.
Keep in contact. Yeah.
Sure, we'll do.
All right, guys.
Tamahara Prabhu, Jai.
Haribol. All glories to Sri
Haribol.
Prabhupada.
All glories to
Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
So we are down to 3 now.
Yeah.
Jai, this is Ronald Prabhu has gone also. So Shreya Mataji is here as well.
Well, yeah, I think maybe we can end it here and have another discussion another day. But it was very nice to participate with lots of devotees and hear different points of views. This is very important.
Yeah, for sure. It was, and I think we got everything done that was that everybody wanted to discuss. So it was very fruitful. It was thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah, it was very nice.
And
this is Kirtanam and Smaranam.
I'm sure everybody who had to leave early, they will still be able to they should, if they wish, they can still hear the end by watching again, because it will be on YouTube on Ronald Singh's channel. If you go to, if anyone is watching on the live stream and they wish to see any of the parts that they missed, then they can type in Bhakta Singh. There's 2 ways to find the channel. One of them is that it is Bhakta Singh. I will leave that in the chat. I will go to YouTube and type in Bhakta Singh. Yeah, this is, I'm sharing on the screen now. This is Ronald's channel here, Bhakta Singh. And it is under the name The Vedic Student, if you want to find it that way. So yeah, that's available if someone wants to rewatch some of the verses that they might have missed. Jai, thank you, Victoria Mataji, for coming and sharing with us and reading, and thank you, Shreya, for coming and participating.
Thank you, Prabhu, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
And yeah, all glories to Prabhupada. Jai Shri Krishna.
And
thank you for everyone who came to listen and watch, and hopefully there was some benefit. Well, Prabhupada tells us that there is benefit even in hearing these things, even if we do not understand. So even for the most fallen among us, there is still mercy. Even if we forget everything we have heard, there is still mercy. So for that, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Haribol.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji Shreya. Haribol.
Haribol. Jai Hare Krishna. So we'll end it.